We do have a quorum. We will proceed with approval of minutes and understand that that we have a couple of sessions of minutes. I am unsure that those have been disseminated. However, they are not on board docs. Ms. Collins, do you have those that I can distribute electronically?
Let me research that for you, and I'll be right back with you.
Perfect. In the interim, and in effort to make most use of our time, I'm going to invite my colleague, Ms. Dawn Page, member of the school board, to introduce, or rather invite some of our friends from the 8th district to introduce themselves. Ms. Page?
Thank you, Mr. Young. Tonight, we've been joined by several members that reside in the 8th district. We have Ms. Juanita Gaines, Rosalyn Gibson, and Mr. Kenneth Gibson. And that's all I can see for right now. But if you all would like to introduce yourselves and share with us how you connected in the community.
Let's start with the ladies first.
Yes.
Juanita Gaines. I live in Davy Gardens. Been in Davy Gardens be 43 years, February 28th. I'm here listening. Anything else?
That's okay. I think that's enough. Thank you. Thank you for attending.
Okay.
Ms. Gibson? Can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sorry. Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. My name is Rosalyn Gibson. I'm a resident in the city of Richmond in the Cullingwood neighborhood. And I've been here I've been in Cullingwood since 1994. Prior to that, I was in another district, but on the south side.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson.
Mr. Gibson?
I'm Kenneth Gibson. I live in Cullingwood also. I'm the president of the community association here. So I'm just here tonight to see what's going on with our schools.
Thank you, sir.
And we're also proud parents of a senior with RPS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Page, any other persons?
That's all I can see, I believe.
Okay, well, most grateful for the opportunity to participate in a conversation with folks that reside in near proximity to Ruffin Road. On the agenda this evening, we have a discussion pertinent to Ruffin Road. The clerk is retrieving the minutes, but in the interest of time, if I may just provide a little context relevant to Vacant Property Committee, and with that we'll get started. Specifically, this committee was born out of our rezoning or redistricting deliberations and plan to include discussion about those Richmond Public Schools properties that are either vacant and or underutilized. This group has initiated discussions about some other properties to date, including, for example, Moore Street on the Carver property, 13 acres, etc. I will share with the group that as recently as today. Had some very productive conversations, including with some folks around the table. And I want to acknowledge, if I may, Mr. Paul McClellan, who is on the call, a representative of the city Department of Economic Development, specifically real estate. And we invited Mr. McClellan to consider putting together some thoughts, very preliminary thoughts for us, for this Richmond Public Schools to consider, specifically at some of the properties I just spoke to. He is doing that. He has begun to do that. And I'm very excited. I wish I could say more, but we have a full agenda. So with that, I'm going to invite Mr. Bobby Hathaway, our Director of Facilities, to provide a brief overview of Ruffin Road property, and specifically the building, condition of the building, square footage, et cetera. Mr. Hathaway, our Director of Facilities.
Thank you, Jonathan. Just a little history about Ruffin Road. It's located at 2001 Ruffin Road. It's a one-story brick building constructed in 1965, about 11,290 square feet. The boiler system in there has reached its life expectancy of about 18 years. We have a current roof that's leaking into structure. Roof replacement's about $500,000. The interior of the building right now, because we are not maintaining heat and air conditioning, we're having issues there. So we have mold inside the building right now. So currently the building itself is not worth a lot, but the actual, lot and everything is. Valuation based on our insurance company is $6 million.
Thank you, Mr. Hathaway. I'm going to present you with a few questions, but I suspect folks around the table will have some questions for you. But I first want to double back to Ms. Collins. Are you available, or are you on the call?
I'm researching the minutes right now.
The minutes.
Yes, sir.
It did occur to me, I do believe we need to approve the agenda. Could we do that now with a quick roll call vote? And for the purpose of committee members, this request regards affirming the agenda as presented. Madam Clerk, are you prepared to call the roll, or if I can do that if you prefer?
I'm sorry, Mr. Young.
If we could perhaps call the roster of the committee for the purpose of just a roll call vote to approve the agenda, just briefly.
Okay, Mr. Young,
Aye.
Ms. Dorr,
Yes.
Ms. Burke,
Yes.
Ms. Page.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Young, we're all good with approval of the agenda.
Yeah, and I think we had a couple of citizen members here this evening, including Ms.
Okay.
Corley.
Ms. Corley?
Ms.
Corliss,
Corley
Yes, I'm here.
do you
And-
approve the agenda?
Yes.
and Mr. Williams
Yes.
and Mr. Rumrell.
And
Thank-
Mr. whom, I'm sorry?
Mr. Rumrell.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you all. Mr. Hathaway, can you please advise, as relates to the last time any students and or staff were in the building for any considerable programming? Speak to what that what that has looked like, what we've used the building for.
So the last time kids were in the building, Jonathan, were back in 2013. The building said vacant, and then we had some administrative staff in the building that was in 2018. But the building's been basically been vacant from 2018 to now.
Mm-hmm. And can you provide, and you spoke to this briefly, but condition of the building, provide a little context for us there.
So at this time, we have a roof that's leaking. Our estimated cost for replacing that back a year ago was $450,000, and if you add in 3%, we're probably closer to $500,000, or 470 something. But because of the leaking roof and we're not maintaining utilities and conditions in the building, the interior of the building has deteriorated. So the conditions are not good at all inside. So at this point, the building, it would take a lot to recover the building and repurpose or reuse it.
Obviously, I've got questions, but I'm starting to see some comments come in. Ms. Page.
Yes. So just to give everyone a historical perspective, so the intent was to surplus the building, the Ruffin Road building, as well as the Summer Hill building when the new school was built, Oak Grove Bellmead. And so, and just as Mr. Hathaway said, staff has been in there, but I totally agree with the conditions. Is really is an expense, a negative expense on the books for RPS. But also in looking at the facilities plan, with the growth in the South Side, I know there have been conversations about another elementary school on that site, but and that's the purpose. I'm glad we're talking about it, because we can't afford to have another vacant building that's an eyesore for the community.
Well said, Madam Chair. Mr. Hathaway, and please, anyone on the call, consider using that chat function on Zoom if you have a question, and then it'd be my pleasure to recognize you. So please weigh in at any time, that chat function, so I can call on you and recognize you for the purpose of either inquiry or comment. In the interim, Mr. Hathaway, what are we spending? Are you able to provide some idea of what we're spending in a calendar or in a fiscal year relevant to maintenance for that building? Are we spending anything on that building?
I mean, we still have electricity on in the building, and we still have some things, operating, Jonathan. But to be honest with you, our utility costs are minimal right now, so you're probably around $12,000 a year. So about $1,000 a month, roughly. Okay.
All right. So most nominal. Thank you, sir. I did see, and I'm not sure who it was. I saw someone called in with an iPhone and they requested the floor. Whoever that is, please. Go proceed.
Hi, this is Cheryl Burke this evening. I'm sorry you can't see me. Had a little technical difficulties. I couldn't hear you on my computer, but I'm the one on the cell phone. Hi, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I may have missed the beginning of the meeting, but I'm asking for purposes, since we don't have the minutes before us at this point, just want to make sure I'm on the same page, since I came on a little bit in and out. Ruffin Road. We're addressing Ruffin Road tonight because I know we have, because of the neighborhood persons that are interested in that per se, or we're addressing Ruffin Road because I know we had another school on South Side. The last meeting, we talked about addressing that one as well. What school was that one? Because there are 2 or 3 schools in South Side, 3 schools, right? In South Side.
Well, yes, ma'am. We had a discussion last meeting pertinent to Oak Grove. The
right.
Old Oak Grove site. Yes, ma'am.
Exactly. So it's Oak Grove, Ruffin Road, and Thompson are the 3 empty schools that are in South Side. All right. So we're not dealing with Oak Grove right now. We're just dealing with Ruffin Road.
Right. And
Well,
also Oak Grove is controlled by the city. So
Right.
that's a whole nother discussion.
Right, but I know that the last meeting, is the gentleman from the city on as well?
Yes, Mr. Paul McClellan.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
I know.
I'm on.
Very good. Good evening. I know you had some great information regarding that. So just wanted to know where we were in terms of moving from, even though the city that's their property. I know we had a long discussion about that. I may have the minutes somewhere. I'll see if I can find them. But so my question is, so tonight we're addressing Ruffin Road because that is our property, and whether we make recommendations to keep the land for a future building, or that's a discussion of the manner in which we're moving in at this time. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
All right. I just wanted to make sure I'm clear. Thank you
Yep.
so much. And thank
Yes,
you everyone for being here this evening. Thank you.
And I saw Miss Page next.
Yes, I would like Ms. Gaines, if she can provide some feedback, because the Ruffin Road is right in their community of David Garden. I mean, because just like with Oak Grove is controlled by the city, so before that discussion needs to be had with the city as well as the community, the Oak Grove community versus the school system, because again, it's controlled by the city. But Ms. Gaines, if you can provide some feedback regarding the Ruffin Road building, because it's right in the heart of David Garden.
Yes, Don. The residents in Davy Garden would like to see that building, something in the way of senior education or a senior center as far as education, even if it's for young adults to get their GED, something similar to that. Yeah, it is an eyesore right now, and we would like to have something done to it. Anything else you would like for me to speak on
Just
about the Ruffin Road building?
Just the feedback from the community, your thoughts, concerns about that vacant property.
Yeah, well, like I said, we would love if it could be a senior center to help the seniors on the computers or even the children on the computers. We have the T.V. Smith Community Center, but that's for the children only. Nothing over here is for the seniors. And I'm not talking about the older people, a little older than I am, but seniors that want to be more into the computer. Even the young people that job searching, even if it's a place that like adult learning center. And Davy Garden had meetings on that, but we couldn't get it off the ground. We didn't know who to go to. But Don, this is what we would like to see it, the building turn into a learning center.
Okay. Appreciate that feedback.
Thank you.
And Miss Page, I suspect some of your other neighbors and constituents would probably like to weigh in as it relates to their thoughts or perspectives relevant to the building.
Sure. Rosalyn and Keaton.
Yes, this is Rosalyn. I think the senior center, which would include adult education, is a fantastic idea. With you stating that Oak Grove is vacant, if we need to have additional schooling for elementary students, maybe we can look at expanding or renovating the Oak Grove building to accommodate students. And then we could use the Ruffin Road location to fulfill the wishes of the residents in Davy Gardens. If you choose, whatever you choose to do with the Ruffin Road location, I would love to see green space, walking trails, build up natural sound barriers around it, really make it a space that can be utilized by young and old, really. And it can, I would like to see the walking trails added to it, and maybe somehow connected with the area, the playground area and picnic tables that they have in the center of Davy Gardens. You can probably have walking trails that would connect all of that. And whatever you do, you would have to go in and gut that building if you're going to keep the structure, and just do a overhaul, or if you have to tear it down and build something there, that is what I would like to see.
Thank you, ma'am. And I saw next, I have a question for Mr. McClellan, but first I saw that Mr. Dasco had a comment. Michelle?
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I just wanted to clarify, because I was looking at the spreadsheet, and it was my understanding that much like Oak Grove, Ruffin was already surplused to the city. And it looks like that happened on December 5th, 2012.
Yes.
So is there actually, is this the same bucket as the conversation that we had last time, whereas we just need to close this out and then the city sells the property because we have actually already handed it back? I just was, yes. Okay.
You're right. And it was that missing step, that quitclaim deed that we did for the Oak Grove building, the old Oak Grove building in 2017. You're absolutely right. Those buildings were surplus in 2012, but the city had added an additional step, which was a quitclaim deed. So pretty much the same thing with the Ruffin Road.
And thank you for that, Michelle and Dawn. I saw that Nicole, our attorney, requested opportunity to address that. Nicole?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. Just picking up where Ms. Page left off. So I also remember historically that I believe that it was a part of that group with Oak Grove. But as far as the quitclaim deed, that would have to be a board decision whether to issue that quitclaim deed. So at this point, that would be the step that Ms. Page was talking about. So that would have to go in front of the full board.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Most helpful. And thank you, Michelle, for introducing that very important point. Mr. McClellan, if you'd be so kind to address perhaps the property, and it's about 4 acres. It's a little over, though the building is relatively small. The size of the property is significant for in the city and for potential infill development. 4 acres. Can you put that into some kind of context for the rest of us? What that looks like vis-a-vis the rest of the city, and how many pockets or parcels around town where you've got maybe 4 acres of contiguous property. Can you speak to that?
Well, I can talk to it, Jonathan. Again, this is Paul McClellan. In terms of value for where it's located, because you're in really our only major industrial zone near the port. So it probably has some value, especially being adjoining the Allegheny warehouse site, which is being redeveloped as Deepwater Terminal or Deepwater Industrial Park. They're building brand new state-of-the-art high bay warehouses next door to it. So it could have some value to that adjacent development if you were to surplus it and or quit claim it back to us. And if we were to offer it for sale, that's just one idea out there, looking at the proximity of it to the adjoining industrial properties and the port.
Paul, thank you. Thank you, sir. I see Jason Gia has requested opportunity. Jason?
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm in the real estate development business. That's all I do. So I don't know anything about schools. I do live in the city. I'm a block from Mary Munford. And I wanted to join this committee to try to be helpful. I do not know this neighborhood extremely well, so I don't want to say anything that's insensitive to the neighbors that live there. But this property is not very valuable as it's zoned today, which I'm looking on the city tax record, and it appears to be, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, it's zoned R4, which is for residential single family.
Right, but
So
everything around
it's
it
not
is
worth
M1,
more.
M2, yeah.
Well, and where I was going with this is, I'm very familiar with the Horrigan folks who own the property next door. They have, unfortunately, nothing going on. No new, no leases, no hot leads on groups to lease their buildings. That's why they haven't built anything yet. So if and when, if someone were to show up and they need 1 million square feet, it's an Amazon or something like that, they may have interest in buying it. I don't think they're the only probably buyer at the moment because of the access. So unless you get the property rezoned, and unless, right now, the only way to access the property is through Ruffin Road, which will the neighbors find that acceptable to have truck traffic there? If they don't, and you can't access it any other way, it's not a very viable site. 4 acres is not very big for an industrial site. So your obvious buyer is Horrigan, if you can get them to buy it, and that would be great. And I think you get the most money if that's what the primary objective was. But you'd have to rezone it, get a plan of development, and that's obviously a public process that neighbors would have, weigh in on. But I just want to say, as it stands today, zoned R4, unless you rezone it, I don't think the property is extremely valuable.
And I totally
If you
agree
were to
with
put
that. Yeah, I agree with it. Definitely would need to be rezoned, and the most likely purchaser would be the adjoining Oregon group, since their site is the largest industrial site at the port right now that's available. It has some value for them to increase their acreage.
It does. I talk to them regularly though, and they've been sitting on this property now a few years, and they've yet to sign one tenant property. So while that could change in a heartbeat if someone shows up, or say at the very moment, I bet if you were to call them up, they would say, we've got enough land. We're good for now. So that's my 2 cents. I'll sign off.
No, that's exceptionally helpful. Thank you both, Jason and Paul. Arguably, some of this discussion is a little bit of an, excuse me for saying this, but academic exercise, perhaps. But that said, it does introduce a variable that, and because we have Ms. Page, some residents on the call, unsure if anybody is prepared to weigh in on any of what they just heard, specifically rezoning away from residential to industrial use and/or access. But before Ms. Page conclude that thought, Mr. Camrus requested the opportunity to speak. Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Young, I have a sort of a larger framing question that I wanted to raise with you and perhaps with the group. just about the sort of direction of our deliberations, and knowing that as a school system, we really have basically two paths with our properties. In essence, hold them because we believe we need them for future use, or go through the steps of transferring them back to the city, which involves the surplus process, the quit claim process, and then really it is up to the city to then take whatever steps are necessary to sell, develop, and whatnot. And I would hope that we get to be a part of those discussions as the ultimate sale or use of those properties per Richmond statute would have financial benefit to the school system. I guess the question I'm posing is, would it be prudent for us as a committee to really hone in on the question of, as we look at each of the properties, making a recommendation for the board to consider of, do we hold this property because we anticipate needing it for future use of some sort? Or do we want to proceed with all the steps to put it on the city's rolls and then advocate for the city to take action on it? I only raise that because, for example, this discussion we were just having vis-a-vis rezoning was very, very interesting and illuminating. I just don't know that we as the school system or the VPC really have much say or it's beyond our sort of domain and purview. And so just raising that as a kind of broader strategic question for the committee to kind of help focus our efforts and really get to a place where we say, hey, Ruffin Road, really two options. Let's dispose of it, surplus it, and quit claim. Or we say, you know what? No, we want to hold it because we think we might need another school on the south side, and we want to reserve that property for that. So let's press pause on that one and let's go to the next property. And then that will help the division have a sort of strategic direction with our properties. And we'd then be able to articulate, here's everything we have in our portfolio. Here's why we're keeping this, and here's why we're disposing of this. And then advocating with the city for them to sell and develop so that we can get the sale revenue and the tax revenue. Anyway, I just throw that out there as a potential framing approach for consideration, Mr. Young.
No, that's most helpful, and I would concur with the bottom line is precisely what you just described. Ms. Dorr, I think, she requested an opportunity to weigh in as it relates to that subject.
Thanks, everyone. I agree. I think that my perspective is that this sort of order of operations is keep or quit claim. And then two is, how do we negotiate with the city to make sure that, since the city technically owns the property, make sure that we have an arrangement that the money does come back to us, either in rent revenue or a portion of rent revenue or whatever. So perhaps, to me, it seems like there's, in sort of our response to the city, there's two things. One is, do we keep or quit claim? And then two, what are our recommendations for a structure that could potentially work so that RPS gets back the money? I would say number one is the most important, and number two are some recommendations. And then potentially the third next step is that then it's kind of out of school board's purview, but I would recommend that the Vacant Property Committee continue to meet, but on the city side, so that they can discuss some of these great use cases that were articulated here tonight. All that to say that I feel some urgency around making these decisions as a board personally. I think it would be great to have this as part of the 2022 budget discussion. And so I'm wondering also if we could potentially agree on a timeline to have a set of recommendations to be presented to our board.
Outstanding. Ms. Dorr, grateful for that. And that is, so we have a couple of recommendations on the table, but first of all, Mr. Kenneth Gibson, and then Ms. Deborah Cora. Mr. Gibson.
I don't have much to say. Just listening. I was sort of confused at first because I didn't know until somebody started talking about who owned the property. I was like, well, if the city owned the property, why are we even discussing it? You know. So I'm learning. So I don't have much to say. I'm just listening for right now.
Fair enough. We're all we're all doing the same. Thank you, sir. Ms. Corliss.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm 100% in agreement with what Mr. Camera said and what with Ms. Dorr said. I think the email that I sent to you and to Ms. Burke and to Ms. Dorr last week, I think we're spending a lot of time. And I think if we prioritize those properties, got them over to the city quickly, get the quitclaim deed, get the money back to the schools, I just don't think there's that much we can do as a group, because the properties need to be turned back over to the city so that they can be disposed of. Now, I understand that you feel that they don't work maybe in the most expedient way, but we've been talking about some of these properties since, as I said in the last meeting, 2005, for Moore Street School. And we're still talking. And it seems like it's time for some action, as I stated in my email.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts before we address a couple of tangible recommendations?
Jonathan.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Page.
I have another comment. I just want to concur with what the superintendent stated, as well as my colleague, Ms. Dorr and Ms. Corliss, because again, we keep having these discussions, but it's time to take action because as I stated, these buildings were surplus in 2012, and we know the growth in the South Side. So again, it's up to the board to make a decision, keep the land for potentially a new school to support the growth in the South Side, or surplus it back to the city, get the proceeds, but also secondly, make sure that the community is very engaged in this entire process, because I think that has been the missing piece in all of this.
I think your observation, Ms. Page, at the risk of stating perhaps obvious, is most astute, and one of the reasons I'm so grateful to you for extending the invite to some of your neighbors in 8th District to participate this evening. Ms. Dorr.
Yeah, so maybe I think Ms. Page brought up a great point. So maybe it's 3 action steps: keep or sell, for lack of a better word. 1, 2 is framework for getting the money back, and 3 is suggestions on how to engage the community on a go-forward basis.
Very good. Mr. Cameras, I see you're put something in chat. Go ahead, sir.
I was just trying to take notes of what Miss Dorr was saying in the chat, so ignore me.
Yes, keep her quit. I like that. Yeah.
Miss Dorr, are you prepared to introduce what you just said in the form of a motion for the group? Miss Nicole, is that permissible for this evening?
Can you clarify what your ask is?
If Ms. Dorr were to introduce her recommendation in form motion for the committee members to vote on.
I mean, I think it can be a voice vote to see if anybody would disagree with it. It looks like it's being put in the chat. So I think if Ms. Collins would ask for a voice vote, or aye and nay, I think that would be acceptable.
Very good.
From the committee members?
I would concur. Ms. Dorr?
Yes.
Would you be so prepared to introduce recommendation in form of a motion? And I believe this would that can be affirmed by a voice vote by committee members.
Okay. I motion that this committee by April 1st develop recommendations to the school board to 1, keep or quit claim the vacant properties. 2, a framework for getting money to come back to the schools. Sorry, I mistyped that. And 3, recommendations for community engagement. I'll retype that.
Thank you, Ms. Dorr. Ms. Page, Ms. Burke, would you be amenable to seconding that? And if you are, please share.
Second. Sure.
Very good. And Ms. Collins, I will request of committee members, all those in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? Any opposed? Very good. The ayes have it.
Excuse me, Mr. Young,
Yes, ma'am.
for the minutes purposes, for second motion, who would it be, Ms. Page or Ms. Burke? Because I heard them both respond.
Ms. Page is fine, Mr. Young.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Burke.
Thank you, Ms. Burke.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. As it relates to, thank you, Ms. Dorr. Kimberly, you have in chat there. I do want to again thank the persons who are attending this evening in the 8th, and I'd like to invite them if they have any words of wisdom relevant to that last point that we've now discussed and that Ms. Dorr just articulated, i.e., what's most important to solicit input from folks who reside in the area. Anybody would like to weigh in with any parting words for the evening relevant to Ruffin Road?
Thank you for inviting me. It's Gaines.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you for joining us. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Hopefully we can get y'all the senior center.
Yes, sir.
First of all, good evening to everyone. I apologize for getting on late. I was dealing with another city matter, but in the interest of Ruffin Road in the 8th district, I would get with my school board representative about what's going on there. But I do want to say to everyone on here that Ruffin Road has been a very, we have had our eyes on that facility for quite some time. And in the intervals of the building of Oak Grove Belle Mead, I do want to say that the community at large, where I serve as president of the Jeff Davis Neighborhood Civic Association, we did at one time, it was our dream that that location would be one that the new Summer Hill would be built. At that time, I think the board looked at it was feasible to build the Oak Grove Belle Mead, and the shutdown of the Oak Grove building went into effect. Of course, you all that have been on for a while know that I worked along with some other community leaders that thought that it was feasible that the Oak Grove building be opened back up after history and research, which from, again, I applaud you guys that are on here, that you encourage us in the community to do research of our own. We found out that financially it wouldn't be feasible and that it was best to have a new elementary school built. I believe, and again, I'm sorry for not having, or I apologize for not having my notes in front of me, but I know that the last time I checked that the dynamics of growth in the city of Richmond as families were moving in is in the south side of Richmond. And most of those families that are moving in are in that zone where Jeff Davis Neighborhood Civic is, as well as that area. And last conversation was that we're looking at that that the board would explore building a new elementary school on that site. So I want to share that for maybe those that are new, and just keep that out there. And if anything has changed, then I would be very open to receiving any information that you all want to share. But I do commend our board representative, because she has kept myself as well as others that have lived in that community, in that David Gardens area, in that Ruffin Road area, and as well as that Jeff Davis area. She has kept us abreast, and we look forward to more dialogue and more conversation where we can engage in that process. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Vice Chair Young, to speak on that. And I see that we did have Madam Chair on the call as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, and I'm most grateful for all of your extraordinary advocacy as it relates to our students and our teachers. Thank you, sir. Thanks for participating this evening. I know you're a busy man. I do want to we're almost out of time, but I want to invite committee members to, if you would, I'd like to go around the table just real fast. Real fast, 30 to 45 seconds each. And if you could just provide perhaps some of your thoughts relevant to this particular property. We affirmed the motion introduced by Ms. Dorr relevant to April 1. This will be one of the properties on that list that we either decide to retain and or to quit claim. I'm not asking for you to per se say if we stay or if we go. You're welcome to do that now, but if you're not prepared to be so concise, then just a few thoughts from what you've heard this evening and relevant to this particular property for committee members. And let's begin with ladies first. And we'll start with our citizen members. Ms. Corliss.
I think that the motion that Ms. Dorr put forward was excellent. I think we should really move forward with that. I don't personally have enough information about Ruffin Road in particular to have a strong opinion of that particular property. But I think in general, all in the composite of properties that we have in our portfolio, I think that we should just look to move forward as quickly as possible with those steps that Ms. Dorr laid out. I think that was excellent, and I think it would just allow us to get these properties either reoriented towards another use or money in our pocket, so to speak.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Corliss. Ms. Burke, do you care to share any thoughts relevant to this property, your assessment? Ms. Page?
Yes, I do. Thank
Oh,
you.
I'm
Trying
sorry,
to get
Ms.
my mute button. I'm sorry. You want to go ahead to the next person?
No, that's all right. Go ahead, Ms. Burke.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I agree with Ms. Corliss regarding the motion that board member Dewar made, which is excellent. You know, I'm ready to get something done, as we talked at length at the last meeting, ready to get something done. So I hope during the year of 2021, we will make things happen. I just look forward to, as Mrs. Dewar mentioned stated in her motion, the community engagement piece, as well as a needs assessment opportunity to see what our needs are in the area, as well as I like the idea of the suggestion about something for the children and for the adults. That takes things to a different level, however it's done, but I know we're not there yet. So however it turns, I'm ready to move forward and make a decision and get this done. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Page?
No, just want to reiterate, I support the recommendation that my colleague, Ms. Dorr, made. Again, it's time for us to take action, and we definitely know the needs in the south side, and we need to do whatever we can to start the ball, to make that happen.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Ms. Dorr?
Thanks. I would also recommend that we perhaps form 3 sub-working groups so that we can do some homework in advance of the next meeting. Potentially, Ms. Page, Ms. Burke, and I could be a leader of the 3, and Mr. Young, you could attend all of them, or something like that, some kind of framework. Just a thought as well, so that we can stay on timeline.
Excellent. I like it. So that, folks, on the committee, please be thinking about those 3 different buckets that were included in the motion, and how you can participate. I think for the committee members, we got all of the ladies. Mr. Williams?
Yes, I agree with the motion that was passed. What I'm more intrigued about is that this particular committee is beginning to have some community input. And a lot of those properties do have to go back to the city, but the sooner we get the community input, it will help us make decisions. So I would encourage the committee members to feel free to bring community members, as Ms. Page did. And that might help us over the next few years in making decisions that are politically correct, if you will. So we want to encourage people to participate, even in this small committee that we have. And what we need to do, and what I will do, is I will do a windshield survey of the property and observe the community itself and see what's appropriate. At this point, the middle-aged people, let's call them middle-aged people, need places to go. And I think it's very important that we think about that demographic as well, because those are the movers and shakers and role models and people trying to develop themselves. So it's not just the young people or the old people. Let's give these people of the 40-year-olds something to do and prosper. So yes, that site has potential.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Rumrow?
Yeah, a couple things. If the school board decided many years ago to try to get rid of the property and just didn't finish it, it'd be awkward for a subcommittee to kind of micromanage that and revisit it and slow everything down. But I really appreciate what the community is saying, the feedback, and I like what Mr. Williams said, that I think it's a powerful idea. If that becomes some kind of specialty school or something, to build a bigger building that has more space, that's more like an urban building, allows the flexibility of educating more people in the building, adult education. And that is, I thought the community was thinking, oh, maybe in 15 years, it needs to be an elementary school, but they're simply saying, they're flexible. And I think it would always be really good to listen carefully to the community. They're not there just to say yes or no or go against things, but I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Very, very good. Most helpful. Thank you, sir. Mr. Guillot?
I agree with the direction. I'm a newcomer to the group, but I thought there were some very thoughtful comments there at the end to try to bring some direction. The one thing I've heard from this entire group in the last 2 or 3 meetings is that people want to see action. So I support the motion.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And if I'm not mistaken, last but certainly not least, Mr. McClellan?
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. I just wanted to point out a couple of things that I really appreciate the residents' comments today on the uses they envision for the site. I did want to point out that I am aware that Parks and Rec is proposing a new park at Broad Rock Creek off of Lynn Haven Avenue, just north of this. And I can check with Parks and Rec and see if they have some plans to connect with trails or anything else through here, because I know there's a whole effort within the city to provide connectivity between various neighborhoods with new bike trails and dedicated shared use trails and things like that. So I can round back with them and see what they're planning for the existing park that's there on Ruffin Road and any connectivity to the new park.
Outstanding. That's most helpful. Thank you.
And I did want to point out one more thing is, I know I'm not sure Ms. Doerr's exact reference to clarifying the proceeds from the sale of school board properties or lease, but I know there was an ordinance passed a few years ago that required that you get the proceeds from the sale of those properties. So we may need to just pull those ordinances and see what they say. And I don't know if y'all are asking to further clarify that or track it or whatever, but I'm happy to help pull those ordinances if you need to.
Yes, there is one that we approved. I can't remember the year, but we did approve an ordinance to ensure that when school buildings were sold, the proceeds went back to the school system. So you're absolutely correct. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you both. Just finish the business. Ms. Collins, thank you so very much. I just want, if everybody in the call just acknowledge the fact that Ms. Collins is working so hard in an interim capacity for us and in the position of clerk, and I appreciate you loading the minutes on board docs. They are there, but I recognize we're at the end of the meeting. I'm not going to invite folks to take the time to pull those minutes up on board docs just for the purpose of voting them. Miss Nicole, I presume we can take that up at our next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, that's fine.
Very good. Absent any other business for the good of the order, I hereby call this meeting to conclusion. We are now adjourned. Thank you all.